If you're not that passionate about it, get passionate about it. Doesn't matter if something takes place within our borders or not. There is right and there is wrong. You pick a side. All right, I want to dunk on Matt Gaetz, but it also serves a greater purpose, aside from just making me happy to trash this punk. What a great example just played out of how propaganda works. That is Russian propaganda, Chinese propaganda, U.S. propaganda. And it won't surprise you to find out right-wingers and the people that fall for their shtick are the targets as well as the perpetrators. Here's Matt Gaetz looking like a fool. This clip is from CNN, by the way. Looking like a fool in a House committee meeting.
Yeah, Dr. Call, do we have DOD personnel in Ukraine now?
Okay. DOD, Department of Defense. Just bear in mind that Matt Gaetz barely understands any of what he's talking about. That's about to become very clear.
We do. We have a couple dozen at the embassy.
Other than the embassy, any other personnel?
Nope.
How about CIA? Are they training folks in Ukraine?
He's asking if we're doing boots on the ground in Ukraine.
I'm not going to talk about that in an unclassified setting. Happy to talk about that further in the classified briefing.
Is the Azov battalion getting access to U.S. weapons?
The Azov battalion are a bunch of neo-Nazis. He's asking this because Russian propaganda is that they, in essence, invaded Ukraine because Ukraine was a security risk, because Putin said Ukraine was run by Nazis. I want you, before this question gets answered, because there's a plot twist coming, I want you to imagine what would happen if the U.S. got invaded. Which people in the United States have tons of guns? Can you think of a group that maybe likes to hang out in the woods, does little faux military exercises, backyard Rambos, those types? Can you think of a group like that? For example, the many militias we have. How are they on race relations, these people? Not so good, right? A lot of rebel flags hanging up. A lot of traitor goddamn flags. They're bad people. But in the case of an invasion, would we say, no, you cannot join our fight against the invader? Is that what we'd say? No, because that's dumb. Even if you want to be callous about it, which I do, what we would do is hope that none of these bastards come back from the war, but absolutely take their help in defending the country, just like they would take our help in defending the country. They would loan us some of their guns so that more guns could be firing at once at the invaders. That is exactly what would happen. So the Azov battalion, if you can imagine, that is a group that is not unlike what would form here if we had an invasion. Would you want to hang out with these militia types with their rebel flags? No. Best they get cordoned off and not bum everybody else out. Well, Matt Gaetz is playing into Russian propaganda, trying to get this guy to say that we have armed the Azov battalion. Now, I'm going to be real with you. Odds are they are carrying weapons made in America right now. And I am fine with that. Why? Because they are not using them to go do Nazi stuff. They are using them to go fight Russia, who is invading their country. I don't care that they personally are bad people. They are defending good people. But Matt Gaetz seems to have a problem with it. He doesn't really. He's just doing Putin's bidding. If you, by the way, are a hammer and sickle communist, you're a moron. You're an actual moron. It's okay to want communism. It is bad to use the hammer and sickle as a symbol of communism. That's like saying, I love socialism, so I'm going to adopt the swastika. you clearly don't have an understanding of the country that used that symbol. And you also clearly do not understand that they were not good examples of that philosophy. So as a side note, if you're on the far left and you're pro-Russia, you're not on the far left. You simply thought you were. Do a little, just a little, investigation into what Russia actually was, what Soviet Russia actually was. Now, as for right-wingers, you just like authoritarians. Russia is exactly what you'd want it to be, except you don't actually want to live in an authoritarian country. You just think you do, because you are a useful idiot. Our right-wingers all around the world, when I say our, I mean humanities. Humanities right-wingers are the useful idiots that corrupt politicians use to get things done. It's been true in Chile. It's been true throughout history. Conservatives are the gullible fools who wind up doing harm within their own country. That's why a conservative like Matt Gaetz, look at that dumb face up there, conservative like Matt Gaetz is being used to harm America and to harm Ukraine, to help Russia.
Not that I'm aware of, but if you have information,
I seek
happy to
unanimous
share it.
consent to enter into the record the Global Times investigative report that that talks about training.
He wants to enter in a news organization's report. Real quick, you want to guess where this is going to go? Real quick, what is every moron relative of yours who spouts right-wing nonsense, what is their degree of fact-checking that they do? How often do they look at their sources? A little spoiler for what's about to happen.
It's from the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensics Research Lab, citing that the Azov Battalion was even getting stuff as far back as 2018.
Without objection, so ordered.
Any reason to disagree with that assessment, Dr.
Is this
Paul?
I'm sorry, is this the Global Times from China?
No, this is...
Womp, 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 womp. Why would China be helping out Russia? Why do you reckon? Well, China is Russia's sole ally, really, in their fight against Ukraine. If you want to know why our sanctions haven't had such a strong effect in Russia, well, gosh, it's because China stepped in to buy up everything that the U.S. stopped buying from Russia. The fact that China is being the financial supporter of Russia has allowed Putin to do things like raise the minimum wage in Russia so that the inflation isn't noticed as much. That's the reason why the war in Ukraine has 75% support in Russia. China is their ally. Why would they be? Why would they be? Well, China wants to do to Taiwan what Russia has done to Ukraine. They want to invade. They want that precedent established. They want to go back to the bad old days of invading other countries to take them over. Colonialism. The devil of humanity. They want to go back to that. This knucklehead up there just cited propaganda from China in a congressional hearing. Propaganda from China, based off of Russian propaganda, meant to support Russian propaganda, meant to trick idiots like this who want to support Russia for various reasons. Now look, if you're on the left wing and you supported Russia, it's because you're dumb, but you were well-meaning. Stop being dumb. You can choose to stop being dumb at any point. Just think critically. Just do a little genuine research. Don't look for what agrees with you. Look for what the facts is. You're a right-winger and you support Russia because you're a bad person. Because you believe in authoritarianism. Look up the history of authoritarianism. Look up where it leads every single time. Look up what fascism is like. Look up what it is like to live under that, and then you can become a good person. But right now, you're not worth talking to. That guy up there, however, is like every other conservative that falls for nonsense. He didn't check his sources. Probably because he thought he didn't have to. And unfortunately, the rest of us are now like that guy who answered his question. We have to know what the bad sources are so we can call them out. Let's see how he handles it, because he recognized that name. He said, "Is that the Chinese propaganda outfit?" Here's the conclusion.
Well,
That's what you read.
yeah, it might be. Yeah, would that be a reason?
As a general matter, I don't take Beijing's
Well,
propaganda.
no,
at
yeah,
face
but just tell me
value.
if the allegation is true or false. I mean,
I don't have any evidence one way or the
Okay.
other. As a general matter, I don't take Beijing's propaganda at face value.
fair enough. I would agree with that assessment.
You got nowhere to go, do you? You fell for it. You fell for it in front of the cameras. You dumb son of a... Oh. Delightful to see it. Why am I showing you this? Well, 2 reasons. Number 1, it's funny to watch Matt Gaetz look like an idiot. Number 2 is that you got to have some understanding of what the bad guys are going to say. There is no reason to support Russia in this. There is no reason to put any sort of pressure on Ukraine to give any land at all to Russia, including Crimea, which Russia took from them by force at gunpoint in 2014. No reason to come down on the Russian side in any of this. It is for Ukraine, entirely for Ukraine and Ukrainians to decide what they want to do with their lives, because we live in a civilized society, theoretically. If we don't want to go back to the bad old days of barbarians taking what they want because they got a bigger stick, then we got to be behind Ukraine 100%. Anyone who is supporting Russia is either misinformed or dishonest, usually both. Confront them, especially if they're on the left. If they're on the left, you got to cut that out immediately. I don't want to see another situation like we had at the beginning of this war, where the squad played games with funding to fight off Russia. I understand they had their reasons, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to hear it, because their reasons weren't good enough. There are no good enough reasons. By the way, those are my favorite politicians currently in office. Bernie aside, I think Bernie might be my top guy. Those are my favorite politicians currently in office. But the left apparently doesn't know how to react to the idea that a country has changed over time. And in fact, the story of a country has changed over time. What we tell ourselves about Russia and the Soviet Union has changed over time, including what the left tells ourselves. That hammer and sickle nonsense needs to go. If you see anybody holding that up, you know what? Report them to me. Send them to me. Send me to them. I'll have a word with them, genuinely. And I'll hit them with a charming smile. But don't let it go. Don't let it go. Address the fact that they are misinformed and inform them. If they are on the right and they are supporting Russia, do what you just saw there in that congressional hearing. Confront them, demand to know where they got the facts. It's going to take about 5 minutes of searching, and you will find that it originates either from Russia or China, and that is that. All of America, 100% of us, better get behind Ukraine on this. If you're not that passionate about it, get passionate about it. Doesn't matter if something takes place within our borders or not. There is right and there is wrong. You pick a side. Be on the correct one.